kind of funny. Okay, so this is getting closer. I'm not 100% happy with it, but we can fix it. The first thing we're going to do to fix it is to add the septum that comes down the cat's nose. And that, you know, is going to look a little bit like that. So I'm going to start out by first inferring the top part of the ridge. And what I've noticed is that there tends to be a dark line just before the color break, and then a bright line above it. A technique I learned in illusionism class. And it's best rendered with a softer brush. That's going to come around. And then the septum is going to come down. Like that. Now it's important here to consider the light. Again, we've got a light source coming from more or less this direction and one right there. So we also have an angle that is, you know, roughly similar to the angle here. So we can take our tones from those areas and apply them. And for the sake of size and length, I'm going to pause and come back when I've done a little bit more. Be right back. Okay, as soon as I paused, I just realized there's some other important things to discuss. So as I was filling the nose and looking at reference, you know, there's a dark line I was talking about, then there's a light line, and then there's a secondary light line just underneath. There's this sort of ridge that tends to run down the nose like that, and that's going to be very important for the nose later on. Also important to remember is where the center of the nose is, how the nose actually comes off the face, and you know, it doesn't hurt every once in a while to draw that center line down the nose, so that we can see now that this right side is a little bit off, and the left side is as well. Of course, you don't want to draw on the same layer like I just did, because you'll run into trouble. Cool, so I'm just going to keep working. And it looks like so far the nose is a little bit too wide on the sides. And this could either mean that I need to widen up these areas, or it needs to be that I close the nose itself. And I am right now more inclined to shrink the tip of the nose rather than widen the rest of the face, because it seems like we might end up squishing these eyes, and that would not be good. That would not be good at all. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to grab this area, copy paste it in a new layer, transform, and then warp it. Don't use the liquify better. Looking better. Okay, I'm gonna sharpen up the nose a little bit in the front here, and I'm going to flare out the sides just a little bit and fill in the shadow that would naturally form. I'm going to select some real darks from the eye area and some darks from the purplish area and add those shadows. And the more I look at it, you know, more things have to change. His sort of jowl line comes up a little bit high, and I'm wondering if I should be taking that down or not. Whatever. There's a lot of push-pull. You know, everyone is looking for a magic bullet for how to you know, just straight up do this and finish it well. And really, you've got to pace yourself, relax, and do some experimenting before you can get anything right. Remember, there's that ridge that runs down the center of the nose, and you don't really want to forget that. And in this case, the light's a little bit weird. It's not coming from the top, so you can't just have a highlight to indicate the ridge. You need to use the light that's given to you. And since the light is hitting this plane, I forget what I called it in the thread, we're going to just bring that in and use the shadow to define the ridge we were talking about. That ridge right there. And in doing so, add the highlights along the appropriate area. And, you know, I think for now, this is a pretty good point to stop doing the painting and move on to the color. So ultimately, this tutorial was going to be purely on doing the nose, but as one can infer based off of what I just said, I'm going to have to do color as well, which is a different process for different images, unfortunately. And I'll get to that in a moment. Just going to do some final touch-ups, and we'll be right back.